Hey, so I want to talk about something because I just feel like it needs to be said. Listen, your personal feelings about a difference in opinion don't supersede the need of the collective of black women and girls. Okay? So if you're mad because Leah or anyone else decided to create our own YouTube channels, that's your personal problem. Because at the end of the day, when people feel like, oh, well, as a black woman, you have a difference in opinion, what do people always say? Well, go create your own channel to say what you have to say. And at the end of the day, listen, we've been seeing it for a long time. Okay? I've understood that at least since the beginning of the year, all over Black YouTube, been this whole idea that there are some people who think that there are certain opinions that shouldn't be given a platform. So you felt like if those opinions were not given on your platform, they wouldn't be heard. And when some of us showed that, well, we can create our own channels or grow our own channels, you had a problem with it. And not only is it going on in this space, but that's some of the issue that you see happening between ADOS versus FBA, right? So at the end of the day, your personal feelings don't supersede the entire collective. And as people are trying to basically mainstream a certain message in black women's conversations, people aren't talking about maternal health care, and they're not talking about some of these other conversations that come up with black women when it comes to overall gynecological care. Because you have certain sectors in the medical community that are now saying that, whoa, there are certain situations where women are being advised to have hysterectomies or partial hysterectomies when they're not needed, and it's causing these other issues. So, for example, there are some women with fibroids who were advised to have this procedure with an oscillator, where it was basically something that would, cut up the fibroid inside of you. But what was happening is that was releasing precancerous cells into the uterus. And so, for some women, they've been able to participate in a class action lawsuit for that. And then I saw something for women in Australia about some other procedure where there was some mesh involved in a surgical procedure for the reproductive system for women, and those women ended up having a lot of complications. And so because some of us as black women are fertile a bit later than other races of women, we have to pay attention to these conversations. And then there are other conversations happening with younger black women, because certainly in that generation that's coming up under the millennials, right? For some of the black women in that generation, their rates of teen pregnancy are much lower, which is certainly a good thing. But in some areas of the country, that means that they're also, they're getting birth control and things of that nature. And so there are people in the medical community wanting to have conversations about the long-term use of birth control and things of that nature, and how that affects women's overall reproductive health. Because there are some women who are taking forms of contraceptives that actually make them more likely to have blood clots. I know someone who's dealing with that. I gotta make a trip pretty soon for a friend who is going through that, because she had blood clots in her lungs. So as people are getting in their feelings about these differences in opinion, there are black women and girls dealing with real issues. And it's not about your personal feelings. It's not about you trying to parlay yourself into relevance. It's about what are you doing to better the plight of black women and girls. And as I was having conversations on my live stream channel about the normalization and mainstreaming of black women hate, conversations about womb health for Black women. There were other Black women in certain spaces who were suggesting that we can have conversations with the Black men who are trying to monetize Black women hate. And those women were suggesting that any of us who were speaking against it were anti-Black male. And some of you helped promote this idea that being pro yourself as a Black woman was automatically anti-Black male. And you only changed your tune when those men let you know that they didn't want you to be a part of their movements. Because to be objective and in all fairness, a man who's standing on his own square is going to want to see out his own agenda, whether that agenda works or not. He'd rather that agenda fail than to have women try to control him. But there are Black women in these spaces who have been here for years, that some of you were under their tutelage, right? And those women have said for years that a lot of Black women intervene in certain ways because you're afraid to see Black men fail, because you view their failures as an indictment on you. And so you viewed the very concept of certain channels as being problematic. And it's like, well, no, we can have our spaces just like you have yours. And as so many people tell Black women, well, if you don't like what we're saying over here, create your own channels. And as we've done that, it's been a problem. And so I just want people to know that you're going to continue to be offended in 2020. It's going to continue to be a problem for you in 2020 because I'm going to say what I have to say. Because again, it's not about placating your feelings. There's an entire collective of Black women and girls who are coming up behind us, who have their lives ahead of them, and who frankly need to hear real information and real advice that's not based on people giving information because they're trying to justify whatever happened in their own lives. It's like, no, whatever your life situation is, it is what it is. It is what it is. Right? No one's asking you to go back in the past and erase your history. But why not be honest with other Black women and girls? So as some of you spend your time damn near 8 hours a day railing against people who frankly don't give a fuck about you, the rest of us will be continuing to focus on the content. We'll be continuing those conversations about faux divested frauds as Lolita had. We'll be continuing the conversations discussing perhaps some of the differences between Black women who are BWE, swirling, and divested. We'll be continuing the conversations about the normalization and the mainstreaming of Black women hate. We'll be continuing the conversations about loquacia and sarcasm and mirroring. We'll be continuing the conversations that we've been having here. Okay? So you're not stopping anything. And the more you talk, the more you confirm what some of us already knew. Thank you, and happy Thursday.